So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session, Southeast Asia Development Empowerment Policies and Institutions. In fact, there's supposed to be 4 panelists, but the other 2 panelists happen to fill up. So it's only 2 of us. So we have the 90 minutes for both of us. Let's do this.
So what would you like to do?
So
19 minutes.
19 minutes. Oh, we will present. No worries. So the first paper. Is about media in Malaysia. So with a title. So the media system, how it works in developing countries, a theoretical framework, case of Malaysia. Now, if you know that in like Southeast Asia, so media is somehow highly regulated, but not in country like, not so much according to the literature like Indonesia, Philippines, and according to Jos Ramos yesterday, he said that in Timor-Leste is completely free. However, country like Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand for that matter, Thailand is kind of free though, but Malaysia and Singapore is somehow a bit unique. Right? Because first of all, you have to understand we have the longest serving government in the world, not in the world, longest serving government for almost half a century now, including Singapore. So media somehow is regulated. So this paper will construct a theoretical framework to understand how this country actually not really contain the media, but how they flow the information, how they make you what you think, what you're supposed to think in Malaysia. All right. So a very interesting one, and it's also challenging because the rise of social media, which is you can't really regulate that. Right. Now the second paper is it's about political economy in Malaysia, looking at the roles of institutions, domestic politics, and also the economics policy formation. Now, if you know that Southeast Asia, basically the earliest one, like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, all these are the earliest one. Except for Singapore, we have a problem called the middle income trap. See, this is the problem that we try to figure out how to escape from that. But no, except for Singapore. Except for Singapore. So all these 3 have a problem. So this is widely discussed yesterday, some of the panel. So, but I'm not going to look into that, but I'm going to look into the role of institutions, how policy is formed in Malaysia. All right, it is democratic, but not democratic. So what we call a semi-democratic country. All right. So to kickstart this presentation, ladies and gentlemen, let me call upon our beautiful lady. Her nickname is Bobby. So,
really?
Yeah, Bobby. But her real name is.
This is my real name.
Nurianti Jalil. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Nurianti Jalil.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Nurianti Jalil. I'm Malaysian. I'm from Ohio University, so I'm fluent from Ohio. And this is my work. This is what I'm going to present today. It's a media system, how it works in developing countries, the theoretical framework case of Malaysia. So let me start with the introduction. Media ownership around the world is what we call that depending on the economic development and the political situation in the country. And then in many developing countries, media system is often controlled by the ruling power, like developing countries, because the government are very dominant institution. And then although media is often referred as one of the most important elements in development process, which play key role to monitor investigating events happening in country, but media is not immune to manipulation, especially in developing countries like Malaysia. Developing countries are defined based on, for this research, it's based on the definition provided by World Bank, where it's countries with GNI of USD 11,905 and last certified as developing countries. So why did I develop this theoretical framework? One, I hope by constructing this, I will be able to assist in explaining, predicting, understanding media in government-controlled media environment. What I mean is in country where the government highly control and contain freedom of press. And also, I hope that this theoretical framework can be used as guideline in scholarly research related to media control in developing countries. But for this, I'll be focusing on Malaysian settings. So what we know about mainstream media in Malaysia. In Malaysia, according to Freedom House, it's an organization been doing a lot of research on media freedom across the world, that Malaysia has never had free media environment. Even in fact, right now, it's getting worse because of the, what we call that, the government started to shut down alternative media sites, and even, I guess last year, 5 of the editors from alternative media in Malaysia were charged under the Sedition Act and then brought to prison and then questioned about stuff they posted online. So a lot of literature done by media scholars focusing on Malaysia found out that mainstream media, especially printing and broadcast media, controlled by the government. Even last year, in the report published by Freedom House, Malaysia was ranked 65 over 100. 65 is considered not free, which means very restricted by Freedom House. And then, based on a research done by a scholar named Houghton, and in her report, she found out that during the election period in 2008, that 60% coverage in mainstream TV in Malaysia gave like positive what we call it coverage on Barisan Nasional, but never on other political parties. Of course, in Malaysia, opposition parties will not have any airtime, especially on TV, to lobby about the politics. And then, of course, there's no space for critical content on politics in media sphere. So this is what...
Is it 60% out of
the whole thing, the whole content on election,
specifically for media?
Yeah, well, Barisan Nasional. And on what we call that, news reports.
How about coverage comparing with other parties?
Yes. Other what?
Other parties.
Other parties, we don't have, like opposition parties, they will not have airtime. Never.
They don't have
No, it's not like, no, you will not see that during the election period. You will not see someone from opposition party go on TV and then lobby about their political party on Malaysian TV. Yeah, because our TV is like highly controlled by the government. And then this is what I did. I tried to group all the mainstream media we have in Malaysia. This is actually RTM, is the state-owned media outlet, and then the remaining one, Media Prima, Astro, Utusan Malaysia, Star, Xinhua Group, Media Chinese International Limited, are owned by someone affiliated by the government. So it's indirectly, the government control whatever content produced by this media channel. And then we also have, the government also use strict media law to control what we have in the media environment. Examples of the media laws that we have is Printing Press and Publication, PPPA 1984. It requires you to get license and all that. And then Broadcasting 1988, it governs what type of content you can share through TV channels, through media, and then but it was repealed to CMA, Communication Multimedia Act 1998, and other laws, of course, we adopt from the British OSA 1972 because Malaysia was once colonized by the British, and then we also have ISA, and then repealed to SOSMA in 2012, Sedition Act, of course, and then we also have the Information Act, which resulted in a highly controlled and selective content in Malaysian media.
Excuse me, what is the last two in 1948 and 1957?
Sedition Act.
Why is that so old?
Yeah, because it's never been repealed. We adopted from the British before, and it's still in use. It still is, yeah. And then what? This is a theory that I use in this macro theoretical framework. If you are a media scholars, you will be very familiar with these theories. So one I have is social responsibility theory, authoritarian theory, gatekeeping, agenda setting, framing theory, and public sphere. So this is the theoretical framework that I got. Okay, so I'm just going to go the overview of the whole thing. So what I'm proposing is the government, by default, will select content, which of the content that they allow the media, mainstream media, to share with the public, is to social responsibility, and then if it comes, and if it's related to politics and sensitive content, it will go to authoritarian, where the government will have the veto power whether or not it should go through mainstream media. And then, excuse me. And then, here, we have another set of filtering process where the editor of the media will, do the job as gatekeeper, select content, and then set the agenda, and then frame content in certain ways, and that's how we get what we see, what we hear, what we listen to mainstream media. And then due to the lack of what we call that space for people like me, who's not a journalist, who's not a media practitioner, so I don't have the what we call that, the power to go here and share information. So what I have now is only internet. So internet, a lot of studies have been done that suggest, that propose the internet's the new public sphere. So how content, information and content flow from citizen to new media, and it's through two-way communication, of course. Internet is always two-way communication. It's either you directly share what you have in your head to your social page, or you communicate with someone, and then that someone shared to new media. So that's why I have to here intermediators can be influencer, opinion leaders, including journalists, family and friends, and others. But, and of course, we have seen that big issue in social media can be picked up by the government, and then we share through the mainstream media channels. So
should I ask now? Should I ask later?
Maybe I can just go through the whole thing, and then we can do the Q&A after that. It's coming. And what I'm proposing is we have two active selection processes, which I name as selective filtering processes, and then the second one is selecting representing process. Here, like the first part of the theoretical framework that I developed, in the selecting filtering process, as I said before, it will be based on the two theories developed by Peterson and Scrum in 1926. And information and content by default should be selected through social responsibility model, where the government approves content that it believes to inform the citizen, provide justified presentation of the event happening inside and outside the country, which is anything not related to politics, not related to race, not related to religion, critical of race, especially like in Malaysian setting. Race, religion, politics, and of course sometimes gender. We don't really talk about LGBT, we don't really talk about transsexual or whatever in Malaysian TV, because it's considered sensitive, so that information will not go through that. So media outlets through this model serve as sources to disseminate information. Of course, it is going to play its role as a as platform to share information to the citizen. However, other content, like the sensitive content that I just told you, like at least in a Malaysian setting, is race, religion, gender, politics, will have to go through stricter model authoritarian, which if the government thinks content is highly sensitive, critical of the government, critical of certain race, critical of it, that information will not go and be shared through mainstream media. So content selected through this approach also need to project good and positive image. This is what proposed by Stephen 1956 in his book. He written it together with the other two scholars. The book is titled Four Theories of the Press, and he said that content selected through this approach need to project positive image of the ruling power, exactly what's happening in Malaysia. And then, once the government approves the content, media outlets still have the responsibility to continuously place the ruling power in positive light, if not most of the time, or they can take middle approach by being neutral. So this is as a result because of the implementation of strict laws, and also the journalists tend to practice self-censorship because of this, afraid to be, get charged and asked questions by the government for content to produce. So these three major models involved in the selecting and representing process is the gatekeeping, agenda setting, and framing. Gatekeeping is when the editor select whichever content they think suitable for the audience, and agenda setting is a theory developed by McCommon Shaw in 1972, where it says that media will not tell you what to think about, but what you should think about. So it will not tell you, hey, you should think about this, but you should think about this issue. So that's what this theory is all about. And framing is a theory where the media are going to tell you how to think about certain thing. So that is what I'm proposing. So yeah, like I said, and after that, after they go through this three, and the citizen will get the final product of the multiple processes of filtering and everything. And by understanding the steps, this model is crucial in answering this question: why we see what we see on TV, what we hear from radio, and what we read on mainstream media. This is particularly mainstream media. So, like I said before, the citizen will have space on mainstream media, so they go to new media. So citizens shall obtain critical opinions, information in the public sphere through the media. Opinion can be shared, of course, directly through associated sites in the media. Critical opinions not in favor of the government can be shared on new media, although sometimes the government pick up the thing, what you posted online, but not all the time. It's impossible for the government to monitor everything unless your post is highly viral, highly shared, highly people know who you are, and then the government can pick it up. And of course, continuous growth of what we call that communication technology and internet technology in developing countries, including Malaysia, support this, making it easier for people to share on new media, and that makes internet as the new public sphere. And a lot of research has been done and supported this theory. And then this public sphere is actually I picked up based on the theory by Friedrich Habermas, a German philosopher, saying that public sphere is a place where you and others can form public opinion. So internet has becoming that. So like I said, in Malaysia, although there are a lot of laws and regulation, what we call it controlled media, especially broadcast and printing, but there are some sort of what we call it argument when it comes to internet, because in 1996, Mahathir Mohamad, the first Prime Minister of Malaysia, promised free internet to all Malaysians. But although he promised that, a lot of people have been charged under other laws like Sedition Act, I say, and all that for content posted online. But still, people keep on using this, the promise made by the first Prime Minister during the launch of MSC project in 1996 to back them up for the content they produce online. Also, the Federal Constitution, Article number 10 on freedom of speech. And this is basically the whole thing. And like I said, what we discuss issues can be picked up by the government and then shared to mainstream media. So like a circle. So I tried this critical framework to see whether it really makes sense, or does it really have, something that I really need to improve. So I did two different studies using this critical framework. One is this study. It's on Birthday 4. Birthday 4 is a controversial rally in Malaysia, which is highly political and often covered in negative light in mainstream media. And then this research, recently will be presented in Las Vegas this month as well, but my professor will present it on my behalf. So I did it by interviewing 12 rally goers and asked them about new media and everything. What I found is that new media sites and social media has become, of course, the arena for public discourse on political issues, because it's impossible to go on mainstream media. And the media and alternative news portals are preferred than the mainstream media because of the perceived bias in mainstream media due to government control. Excuse me. Government's power towards content and reports in mainstream media has led to skepticism, of course, throughout the years. Since 1957, people have been fed by certain agenda by the government, and they developed the skepticism towards any content produced by the mainstream media. And also, I did a comparative analysis timeline with the STAR frame. The STAR is the government media frame for in negative frame as compared to the Malaysian Insider. How I did this is by content analysis of the news report, and then comparative images they use, and of course the headlines, and then the frequency of the reports by both news channels. And I also did this research. This paper was presented in Texas A&M University last year, and then I did eight in-depth interviews with Malaysian popular opinion leaders, including Marina Mahathir, Amir Muhammad, Cyril Hari, and I know if any Malaysians here will be familiar with this name. And then they, of course, said that due to censorship and implementation of strict media laws have made them to opt for easier way, which is the internet, to share the critical opinion on things, especially on politics. And of course, numerous times, like in other studies, I found that, media outlets in Malaysia being less friendly towards critical opinion leaders, and not just less friendly, they've been charged with under numerous laws, especially the draconian British laws that we adopted. And then, and that's likely to get airtime, especially on television, to share critical views of local politics. That's what I'm proposing. And like I said, due to promise made by Mahathir Mohamad during MSC in 1996, people are still confused, free or not free, Malaysian internet and stuff. But in the end, internet is still relatively more free than, of course, mainstream media. So that is it. Yeah, I really need feedback, because I'm just going to need, because my plan is to use this critical framework for my own dissertation project this year. My dissertation is on citizen journalism in Malaysian politics. I kind of need feedback from other scholars from other prestigious universities on this. And thank you.
Thank you Bobby for the interesting presentation about media in Malaysia. Sorry. So we shall have the Q&A sessions after the next paper, the presentation. So now, after you heard about Malaysia media, which is, is highly regulated, but at the same time we also have challenge for the government because of the rise of social media. Well, despite this rise of social media, which you can control information, at the same time the government use other legislation to detain, to control people's freedoms of speech. The one that she presented, some people have been detained under a certain act. So this is the interesting part of Malaysia. Another interesting part of Malaysia is to look at the economic growth, because Malaysia is considered to be one of the if you come across with the report in 1993 by World Bank, which is the chief what do you call that, this guy, Joseph Stiglitz is the one who commissioned to come up with this report. The ASEAN miracle. If you know that report, stated that the ASEAN is going to be the next big thing, when it comes to economic growth. The East Asian miracle. So the East Asian miracle, number one, they make it two generations. Number one is the Northeast Asia, which is Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, who have made a quantum leap from the agriculture phase to a really highly industrialized country. And then the second generation is the Southeast Asia countries, which include Malaysia. But of course, Singapore is in the first tier, together with Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. Now today I'm going to talk to you about the Malaysia political economy, the roles of institution politics and economic policies. So this paper, in fact, is looking at the formations of economic policy in Malaysia. So it's a historical analysis, but at the same time, I try to develop a theory to look at how policy is formed in Malaysia, because it's quite unique and different, somehow similar with the Northeast Asia country, but why can't we have similar growth like Japan, Korea, and Taiwan? So this is the question. If we adopt the same way of doing it, but why we are different, right? Now, so to look at it in a more critical way, okay, so I just want to show you, tell you the theoretical perspective, because sorry, my name is Firdausi Sufyan. I'm doing my PhD. I forgot to introduce myself anyway. So I'm the chairperson for this session, alright, and then I'm also a presenter for this session. So in fact, there's another two panelists, but they happen to drop out. It's alright, we are the brave one. Okay? Now, anyway, so let's go back to this presentation. So the theoretical perspective here, which I developed, is to challenge some of the big, not really big theory, some of the theory when it comes to institutions. So if you're familiar with the theory of institutions, it's one of the most widely used in the literature and also in research. So people like North, Achimadaglu, Mancus Oslo, right? And people like this are the big people when it the theories of institutions. So it's very important to understand any political economy of any country. So it's a sort of important analysis. So today, I'll develop a theory which I try to distinguish how a country like Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia borrowed some of the idea from Northeast Asia to look at how they form policies in Malaysia, right? So the theoretical perspective, of course, which I'm going to look at is institution. So institution is widely defined as the rules of the game. Who write the rules of the game, right? So the rules of the game is constructed by formal and informal rules. So the formal is the formal law, like, the Sedition Act, some sort of formal law, okay? So the informal informal rules are like norms, value, convention, the embedded convention. So if patronage is a form of culture, then that is an informal rule. Right? Like in Mexico, you have this cacique relationship, which is the patronage patron-client thing, right? In Malaysia, you have this political cable. Yeah, they call it the political network. So these are some sort of informal rules. So there is a variation in terms of institution. So variation here means they are strong and they are weak. Like strong institution, if you look at the literature, are the Anglo-American perspective, right, or the Anglo-Saxon perspective, right, which is a very neoclassical perspective. By definition, I would define a strong institution where you have a level playing field in a policy formation. When I say level playing field, means to say the trade unions are there, the civil society are there, they can come together, coordinate policy, they can pursue their interests. But I don't want to sound parsimonious. If you're familiar with variety of capitalism, there's a coordinated market capitalism, which is practiced in the UK and also in a European country like Germany or France. There are liberal market capitalism, which is purely, one of the best examples in America, we are pure liberal, but it is still remains debatable. Okay? So the weak institution is when you have unlevel playing field. Unlevel playing field meaning to say the environment, the political, the policy domain is non-pluralistic. Not everybody can compete for resources in the policy-making process. Right? But if this weak institution, all right, if it's unlevel, it's supposed to be, people can be, you cannot develop the economy, right, from a theoretical perspective. But Japan, Korea, Taiwan, has a features of weak institution. But today, ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows what is Samsung. Some of you use Samsung, right? So do you know Proton? You don't know Proton?
Yeah, I know.
You know Proton. Do you know any technology? None of it that is from Malaysia to make a chip in Samsung. But you know Samsung. You know Life Good.
Life is good.
You know LG. LG, you know LG, right? Okay, you know Kia. You know Toyota, of course. But do you know Perodua? You know Kijang, of course, from Indonesia, right? So anyway, now, but this country, they do have some sort of a weak institution at the beginning of industrial accumulation, right? But they can grow. Why? Why we cannot grow, right? Now, so this research will look at from the weak institution dimension, where the institutional setting has a double-edged sword features, right? Double-edged sword means to say it has a positive effect because when you have weak institution, it underpins the role of the political elite, industrial elite, and the technocratic bureaucrats, which actually come together, these three triangles come together and form policy and make sure the country, and envision the country to have a positive developmental goal. And they try to reduce any rent-seeking behavior or corruption, right, in order to attain this goal. And also to avoid any political interest embedded in most of the policy. They want to have a meritocratic way of coming up with a policy and to avoid corruption somehow, right? Now, so when you have the elite who actually do come up with a policy, so it has double-edged sword features. It can be positive because if the elite really serious about talking about growth, then they can push the country into a advanced economy. If they are not, then it will be inflexible because they just don't want to change because there's so many interests within, right? Now, so another theory, sorry, another issue another concept that will include is the developmental state. If you're familiar with this developmental state, so this is mostly like in variety of capitalism. So when you have a state who actually active in configuring policy to ensure development. So the pioneer for this theory is Miss Talman Johnson, which he looked at Japan as a model, as a developmental state model, and then after that Korea and Taiwan, and now China. All right. So where the state actually really serious about develop the country, right? So there's a strategy. It is not like Soviet country, like Russia. There's like a strong, like a, what do you call that, socialist country. It's not really like that. It's like, it's not really, it's like state capitalism, but the political institution uses market rational. You see, so if I make sense, overcome too long. So it's like, you know, they're serious about doing business. Okay, they don't want corruption. Okay, they want to make sure develop. So these are the features of what I say in a weak institution where you have a non-pluralistic environment. All right. So there are three important. So in Malaysia, in developmental state, in a pure developmental state, okay, you have these three triangle arrangement, which I call triangle arrangement. So you have the politician, the bureaucracy, and the business group, who actually drive the economy and make sure that they attain developmental outcome. At the same time, they do not downplay the market forces. Like if there's, they try to augment with the market forces, right? So the politicians decide the vision. Who actually control is the bureaucrats, but they are insulated. So in Carter Johnson's words, they call it the technocratic bureaucrats, which is like the smart people, all right, who actually make the policy, make sure, assess the policy, ensure there is what do you call the export performance. They want to make sure the export performance is at an optimum level. So the business people, the business group, and the business association, they are somehow linked with the political elite, like, you know, Samsung. Samsung before this was doing TV still, but the political elite says no. You have to focus on car and electronics, so they can shift immediately, right? So this is like, so this triangle relationship to actually form the policy, and this is what Malaysia wants to emulate. Okay, but let's look at Malaysia later. All right. Now, the next one. Let me just tell you about Malaysia's political economy, and before we go through the further point that I wish to make. So number one, are you familiar with Malaysia, or have you been to Malaysia? So for Malaysia, we have 26 million people, and then we have the longest serving political party in Southeast Asia after Singapore. The longest serving party in the world is in Mexico, PIP, which is 72 years. And then after that you have Japan, but Japan somehow, then they lost in 1993, and then after that in 2001, and then come back again. So in Malaysia, the Barisan Nasional has been the ruling party since independence, 1967. So it wasn't called Barisan Nasional back then. And then they formed Malaysia in 1963 together with the two Borneo states. So it's a controversial issue with Indonesia, but it was solved, all right? So if you look at Borneo, you look at the project Southeast Asia banner, you can see Borneo is big, right? But half of it belongs to Malaysia, half of it Kalimantan, and then there's one Brunei. Okay? So the longest serving political party, we have changed 6 leaders. Different leaders have different approach. Different from a liberal approach, a very conservative, to a very, I don't know, the current one. They say don't talk bad about your country when you are presenting. So I'm not going to do that. So that's what Mr. Churchill said. But Mr. Churchill, former Vice Chancellor of Bristol. So I'm from University of Bristol, so I take that serious. But we can talk about that later.
I will ask you later.
Okay. Anyway, so ethnic politics matters because during the after the post-independence, so the Chinese dominating the economy. So the Malay had only political. They control the political domain, but not the economy. So somehow the Chinese can bully them. All right. So this does not bode well with the middle class and the lower class Malay. So in 1969, there's a racial riot, right? So this racial riot in 1969 changes the institutional setting in Malaysia, and somehow the Malay is like become the big brother and control most of the resources in the political institution. right? Now, anyway, so this is what in Malaysia, when you talk about economic policy, so it is a market, it is a capitalist, if the state adopt market liberalism. So basically, I mean, any country would do that, except North Korea, even North Korea. Right? You cannot run away from capitalism. I'm a strong believer of that. And but economic policy is not really pluralistic. It is market liberalism, but when it comes to policy, it is not based on economic pluralism. It is based on what most of the literature would say, inter-unit bargaining because of its semi-democratic institutional setting, administrative state, and of course a patronage in terms of economic development, all right, or crony capitalism, right? Now, so this underpins the elite to configure policy, because the elite to configure policy. So when you talk about the elite configure the economic policy, so the political institution, in fact, is the heart to decide policy agenda, policy issue, allocations of resources, right? Now, so So in Malaysia, so like the triangle. So the prime minister is very powerful. It's almost like absolute. No, I'm just joking, but not really absolute because in Malaysia we have 9 kings who still rotate to become head of state, but the prime minister holds the executive power. So it's very unique in Malaysia. Okay? So the ruling government, the prime minister office is the main. When we talk about policy, they are the one that come up with the policy, and then and then the bureaucrats, of course, and of course the business group. So like this, before, like I told you before this, there's a racial riot because the Malay are somehow are not really doing well in commercial and business activities. So therefore, they want to come up with ways how to address this. So the state come up with a lot of state-owned enterprise, filled in with Malay individuals to run the business. At the same time, it's a learning process how to do business. So in 1990s, okay, so the government come up with a privatization plan. Because in 1998, in 1980s, when you have this end of 1980s, the IMF and also the World Bank come up with a structural adjustment. You can still remember. Okay, they want to make sure that this neoliberal way, okay, to make sure that no more to reduce state growth. Okay, so Malaysia is susceptible to that way. Any country, unless if you are North Korea, right? Now, so we come up with a privatization, but in fact privatization is good because the government will privatize those state-owned enterprise to a politically linked individual. So it's easier for them to manage the resources. Okay. However, when it comes to economic formation, we cannot say that our policy is undemocratic at all because the trade union and the civil society is there. It's still incorporated. But the question is always the power relation between these two, between this elite, the bureaucratic elite, the business elite, and also politician elite, together with the trade union and civil society. When it comes together, when we talk about bargaining, they do have sometimes they can push, but the extent to which they influence the policy outcome remain debatable. Right? It's not easy. And remain weak. Right? Now, so this is how the policy formations in Malaysia, the institutional setting. I got it from several resources and I combine it. And then this is how it works. So you have the Prime Minister Department, which is the center. Like this EPU, Economic Planning Unit, they borrow from Korea. Korea, they have a pilot agency called Economic Planning Unit as well. In Singapore, they do have as well. So this pilot agency is very important to monitor the economic growth and allocations of resources. So we have that. So you have the National Planning Council, the National Economic Action Council. And then because I talked about economic policy formation, so there are two ministries the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of MITI, they call it. So the Ministry of Finance is important. You know, they decide the money. But the Minister of Finance is the Prime Minister. Very interesting. Okay? And the MITI, which is this is similar to Japan. When Japan started industrialization, they come up with a MITI, a very strong ministry that oversees industrial development. Exactly the same. We adopt the same approach, so this is how it works. Now, if you look at the private sector, they are here. So this dotted line is the formal and informal relationship. All right? So it's supposed to be like this, but they are informal relationships. So the central bank is supposed to be independent, but it's not really that independent. Okay? So the political party, they do have business. So it's very unique. In Malaysia, the politicians can be a director of certain company, all right? Indirectly or directly. So they control the resources, and then business, they also control, just like, you know, when you look at the presentation before this, most of the media belongs to certain political party and certain individual who have interlocking interests with the political elite. Right? So it's very unique.
I have a very quick question.
Okay.
Where is the Ministry of Commerce?
Oh,
domestic.
Okay. In Malaysia, the commerce is they do have commerce domestic line, but I'm not going to look at that because it's not really powerful. The powerful one is this 1, 2, and of course the
So you
primary
can't tell much
salary.
about consumption.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay. I'll come back to that. All right, I'll come back to that. So this is how it works, the triangle arrangement in Malaysia. So the business elite, they have a very strong reciprocal relationship. So they have, they decide policy, they tell what the government do, and the politicians, because they are very close. All right. The bureaucracy is supposed to be back in the 70s, up until 90s. It's supposed to be insulated. Insulated here means, you know, you have the smart people actually run the bureaucracy. But after the long-serving prime minister, we have a very charismatic prime minister in 1981 until 2002, who ruled Malaysia for 23 years, right? So he's the one that changes the dynamic of the bureaucracy, and then now it become what they call a strong politico-bureaucratic ties. I borrowed this word from the Thai Andrew McIntyre. So he said in Thailand there's a strong politico-bureaucratic ties to actually link strong ties that flow the political elite and the bureaucracy. And the bureaucracy is not really that good, you know? Not really that strong, not really that independent. If you come across with Malaysia issue, the One Malaysia Development Board, have you heard of that? It's fine. So this is how it works in Malaysia. Let me just show you the phases of industrialization. So Malaysia wants to industrialize. Malaysia industrialized. There are 4 phases of Malaysia industrialization. Number 1 is during the 50s after independence. So we are like, because we adopt laissez-faire, because at that time we just get independent, so we still adopt the British legacy. All right. So basically, it's very laissez-faire. So there's not so much of the state does not really intervene in the market. All right. So these are the early period of so. The reason I put this because you have to understand the dynamic of domestic politics in Malaysia, because their influences institution, they also the elite are somehow linked to the domestic politics, influences policy formation. All right. So this is how it works. This one I told you already. So the early period. So this to transform the Bumiputra. Bumiputra literally means son of soil. Right? So, like Bobby is Bumiputra and Bumiputra. Bumiputra means Malay. Malay is Islam. But Bumiputra does not mean that you're Malay. You can be non-Muslim. Right? Now, So the United Malay National Organization is the ruling class. So they are the one that, they are the political elite. So during that time, they want to transform the country, and they come out with a plan to intervene the market and ensure that there's equal distribution among the Bumi Putra, which is lag behind in terms of business and commerce. Because at that time, British come up with this divide and rule thing. So the Chinese focus on commercial, the Malay focus on agriculture, and then the Indian focus on plantation, right? So that is the institutional, the legacy, it is social structural problem. So this is what they attempt to address, right? So in the 70s and 80s, so we want to embark with a shift from import substitute to export-oriented substitute. And this is because of the global production network as well. At that time in the 70s, the US, the Europe, they come to Malaysia, and then we take advantage of that. Okay? But the problem with Malaysia is that we are unable to upgrade, like Singapore, able to upgrade into higher tier of production network. We somehow stuck in the middle, and that's why it equals to the cost of middle income crime, right? So in the 80s and 90s, so we were good in the 80s until 90s. Of course, at that time we have, they call it the Volcker shock. The Federal Reserve in the US, when they start to, the interest rate, they try to solve the American economy, so we are suffering from that as well. But we were really good at that time until 1996. Our capital share was one of the highest, higher than Singapore, third or second in the world, right? Because we focus on financial market, and we were really good at that. But if you're familiar with the name George Soros, all right, the guy who studied LSE, who used a Popperian philosophy to actually manipulate shares. Okay, I don't want to talk about the philosophy, right? And in 1997, we have this ASEAN financial crisis because of Mr. Soros, my prime minister, former prime minister said. Okay, but I'm not so sure. Right? So the ASEAN financial crisis really hit our country really bad. Okay, but we managed to rise because it's a V shape. In 1997, yes, goes down to negative, but in 2000 bounced back really fast, right? Then after that, we have recession in 2008. We prepared for that, okay, and then we come up with stimulus package, that, okay. So now, like this. So the reason I tell you this, because now we have middle income problem. So the policymaker know this, okay, the elite, they know this, okay, and they also know that industrial development is stalling, it's not moving, and costs middle income problem. So in Malaysia, we have this problem called the premature deindustrialization. If you look at Malaysia, we were really good at one time, and then if you look at the manufacturing, and it drops and it's just leveling off, and it's not that really good. We're supposed to make supposed to go up, okay? Because this is what the country vision, just like developmental state in North Korea, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. But how come we adopt, how come, why? Right? So if you look at Malaysian manufacturing trade balance, oh yeah, by the way, Proton and Produa belongs to Malaysia. We are.
For the business one, do you have share of employment as well, or just share of output?
Sorry?
You have to scarf for share of output.
Yeah, this is
But you don't have share of employment.
I will show you that later.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and then we're supposed to be good at transport equipment and machinery, but it happens to have a negative growth, right? And then this is the manufacturing and employment, all right? It's supposed to be good, but employment somehow doesn't grow. Okay? So the sector employment structure, if you look at manufacturing, of course, agriculture is a lot because that's what we do before this. But manufacturing somehow does not do well. So this is the reason of premature deindustrialization. And foreign direct investment, of course, the emergence of Vietnam, or what they call the CLVM, the Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and Myanmar. So the global production somehow shifts to them because it's cheaper, relatively cheaper. Malaysia is somehow relatively, because of a middle income and also a middle tier production network. So they shift to that. So this is our foreign direct investment dwindling. And of course, the portfolio investment, if you are familiar with that, goes up. Portfolio investment is a non-tradable sector. Non-tradable sector is very easy to make money. Share. It's very easy, especially if you are the elite, if you are if you're rich. It's really easy to make money. Okay? I'm not rich. Basically, yeah. That's
What
why
happened in 1994?
Yeah.
What has happened in 1994? Anything important?
This is the shock. They tried to recover from the Volcker shock in the late 80s. Yeah. So in 1997 that's financial. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the three models, we have a premature deindustrialization. We have a problem. So the elite, because of our weak institution, the elite can in fact adjust policy, okay, to get rid certain investments they already made and allocate to a targeted sector which they can actually grow, like service industry, Islamic sector, furthermore, right? So and so forth. The main challenge for economic policy change is the rent seeking, which the government already invested a lot. But to change that is not easy in a weak institutional setting, right? So the challenge also arises because the political elite have ruled for a very long time. So capital accumulation is linked to they have an interlocking link between private sector and the political elite. So capital accumulation somehow is to help them to stay in power, right? Fund them and stay in power. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, but this one I cannot conclude like my PhD. I cannot conclude because if I can conclude, I've completed my PhD. This is still at the rudimentary stage. Okay. Thank you. So because I'm the organizer and the discussor, chair person, so I'm gonna come. So we have like 30 minutes, okay, to come up with a Q&A. So if you have any questions, okay.
Should I ask you first or probably first?
You can just pop up the question. We take question.
So maybe I ask at the same
you
time.
yeah.
So for you, that you see, I don't know, like ask at the end because I will forget.
Okay, you ask everything.
No, I have.
We will do that.
So you were talking about triangle arrangement, right? And we see politicians there, bureaucracy, business group. I'm just curious if citizens have their own interests and they come up in the front of either labor union or protesters on the street, how do they involve in that triangle? In Malaysian context, what is the difference of their involvement in Malaysian context compared with other? Because you are looking at developing countries, right? Compared with Thailand or maybe Thailand. The second one, you were talking about patronage in with bargaining power. I see that it exists everywhere, right? If you look at David Cameron, Panama Papers, and kind of linkage with businessmen and money. Sorry if they are British here. I know corruption is politicians don't behave on public interest, but they behave on their own interest and they corporate. That's the fact. So what is the key difference from developing countries to developed countries? Because that exists everywhere, and how can we learn from them? Why British can flourish through that and they still have that problem. They still have inter-elite bargaining power. But now they have serious problems in healthcare system, they have problems in social welfare, things like that. And seriously, they are having problems with teenagers, and other things. And also they are putting themselves into another problem on Brexit. fixing it. So they are putting themselves into another uncertainty. I'm not sure why they want to do so. That's the question for you.
Maybe you can answer that.
No, it's okay. We pick up
okay.
questions. Yeah.
I think you pick up all questions and you two can respond at
Okay.
a time. Because I'm sure some questions will be easily answered.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
First for the lady.
Yeah.
As a political scientist,
Yeah.
I always give a lot of importance to the voice of the youth because they are rebellious by nature in
Yeah.
any country.
Yeah.
They are untamed
Yes.
and they are ones who come up with open ideas, new ideas, an alternative way of looking at things.
Sure.
But what seems to me from your presentation is it's so controlled society that you're moving, and probably you've already moved into a very stagnant society and a lot of heteroization of ideas because you're not giving powers to people and especially to the youth. So they are, even in schools or in colleges, you're training them to think the way you want them to think.
Yeah.
And therefore they're not opposing you, and therefore there's no alternative way of looking at Malaysian society in the future. So that's problematic for me to discuss. I'd like to comment,
Yeah.
comment on that. And the second question is for the gentleman. When you talked about the elite triangle, which wants to remove corruption, but what about their own corruption? And how many cases have been taken up by the judiciary, and whether it's an independent judiciary, and how many have been convicted? Because your elite, so-called power elite, is not non-corrupt. Because Malaysia is not a non-corrupt society, not a non-corrupt country. And secondly, economic growth without social voice or social justice is a useless growth. Because ultimately it's going to crumble. So where do you see that going?
It is an interesting one, social justice.
So can I get back to you?
Yes.
Hang on, before that, can I have any
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Okay, I'd like to answer first. Do you think the developmental model of Malaysia is inherited? It is emerged after the British colonial era, or is it inherited through British colonial policy? I've read some literature that mentions that in the British colonial era, the colonial policy was not direct. It is indirect through the Sultanate of Malaysia. Is it true, or what do you think? Is it shaping the developmental model of Malaysia as well? Thank you.
Alright, so they say, ladies first. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he
Oh,
has
yeah,
one
yeah,
more
yeah.
question.
This
Yeah.
is going to be short because I don't know much about media.
Yeah.
It seems like you have two different kind of media, mainstream and new media.
Yeah. Yes.
And people try to channel through that thought for new media,
Yeah.
following Mahathir,
Yes.
his idea of giving people freedom on that platform.
Yeah.
So, do you see people channel through that thought from that platform, or do you see government trying to, at some point, they are going to regulate people on the new media? What do you think?
Okay, so I'm just gonna combine like the two feedback I received like from you and from over there, and then for me, like you said, that the youth is highly controlled, shape their mind through policy, government policy in school, everywhere, in the structure, through information being fed to them. And what I think we have seen a lot of evidence from Arab Spring, from where even Reformasi 1998 was started. Warnet, was it? I remember, yes, in Indonesia, was internet, which we call as the new media, facilitated this movement, reformation, revolution. So what I would say is that the internet itself is the new public sphere, despite being controlled through what we call that mainstream media, highly structured, highly controlled mainstream media. Now, thanks to the constant development of the technology, the youth especially becoming highly critical due to the globalization, retrieval of information from everywhere, not just Southeast Asia, it's unlimited from everywhere, and this has enabled them to form different perspectives on things, and that's what I would say to comment on for you. And of course,
can. Yes, of course, Malaysia right now, the government is like currently working and how to tackle the promise made by Mahathir Mohamad, free internet, and he actually, the fourth Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, said in a press conference saying that he regret making that promise in 1996 because he knows that Malaysians are, not. I think he was, what he meant is that he is very welcoming of critical opinion, but not everyone is critical, like, being professional about it. More, they use it more on like to ignite racism, to use it to spread like negative messages on new media. But now the government is using that as an excuse to govern the internet. And right now they're still working on it, but still they don't come to really, like, what we call it, firm ground on which law they can enact, and then totally
Getting
different.
close to China, no Facebook, no.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right now they even talk about it. Like, I think it's like several months ago they were talking about what we call that, trying to block Facebook in Malaysia. But of course everybody went crazy. Like, what? Wait, Mahathir promised like free internet. Why are you doing this? And then it didn't happen. So let's hope that that's not gonna happen in Malaysia, because is very backward thinking, and Malaysia kind of need people to have access to different information. We have had enough already. So yeah, that's for me. Thank you.
So Prime Minister used to say that power corrupt, absolute power corrupt, absolute. Freedom corrupt, absolute freedom corrupt, absolute. Anyway, he used to say that. In 1998. Anyway, so like this. Okay, a very good question. Thank you so much. Really challenged my intelligence. So yes. Anyway, elite bargaining is everywhere, right? Corruption is everywhere. We know that. So what we can, if you look at from a developed country and from a developing country, Southeast Asia for that matter, is the institution that distinguish between these two. So if you look at, when I say strong institution, I don't like, what happened in the UK. So like David Cameron was implicated with the Panama Leak, right? But he was being honest. He said that, okay, I have money, so, but I sell it. I sell it before I become Prime Minister. And he was very honest with that. You see, the keyword is honest.
It took a few days for that
But he was honest. I know, but yeah. And Mr. Mundu.
Delay response.
Yeah. So Mr. Mundu, from the Prime Minister of Ireland, is it Mundu? He resigned, right? Surprisingly, there's no American at all in the Panama League. Interesting.
Not in Panama, British Virgin.
We don't know. I mean, like, really, there's no American at all putting money out there? Anyway, let's come back to it. So the differences is that when you look at strong institution and weak institution in developed and developing countries, that they can be removed politically. The state and society relationship is very strong, in the sense that society does not like you, they can replace you. Right? Rules are being enforced, like at least to the optimum level to ensure there's justice, right? And rules are not manipulated or layering, converting, diverting. The judiciary is very independent. So if there's anything wrong, that people trust the institution. Now, in a weak institution, when our Prime Minister was implicated with the Panama Leak, people questioned that in Facebook. But nobody there actually, hey, you, Prime Minister, tell us the Panama Leak. Nobody actually dared to say.
Because that will be charged on the Sedition Act.
He wasn't being, I give you one case, which is very embarrassing, but just to make my point, this one case in Malaysia called One Malaysia Development Bank. So this is how it links with Panama, it links with so many things. Including Paris Hilton. I'll come to that. Okay? Now, Anyway, so the one Malaysia Development Bank, so like this. So there's so many offshore investments, and then there's one day, this money, 2.6 billion money, deposited into the Prime Minister account. And so 2.6 billion, right? So nobody actually, 2.6 billion. So if a Prime Minister, if you as a Prime Minister, if you look at it, a Prime Minister got 2.6 billion deposited to his personal account. What do you think of that? Ringgit. Sorry, in US dollar. No, you say it's a donation from the Arab country. So the corruption, you D-C-O-R-R-P, you erase, you put D-O-S. So donation. All right. So the judge want to actually investigate. So in a weak institutional setting is that the informal linkages, they can change the judge and replace someone else. That's it. Legally, he is so the chief judge actually investigated it and says that there's nothing wrong. It's donation. All right, and it's clear. It is donation. Donation is not wrong. Right? If I want to give you 2.6 billion, that's it. Come from an Arab king. All right. Now, so legally he is right, but ethically is wrong. So that's why he still stay in power, brother. Huh? So this legally right and ethically wrong is always a very interesting issue to look at. Okay? And then, of course, the judiciary is. We used to have we have an independent judiciary. I would not say that we do not have independent judiciary, because the opposition uses the judiciary to challenge certain government policy, and they win from certain cases. So it shows that we still have independence, but there are some sort of manipulation to a certain extent for the political elite. So I would not say that we have a very completely not independent. We do have. Right? Like if you're familiar with this guy called Anwar Ibrahim. So he have used our judicial system to challenge the government, and he has won so many cases. Right? So we need to say there's still some sort of free and fair, free, but not free and unfair. Free a little bit of unfair. Okay? Now, social justice. Oh my God. So it's very difficult to answer that. Justice or just tweet? If you don't have justice, then you just tweet it, and everybody will know.
I tweet it.
Yeah, you tweet my photo. Did you say that I said talk about Prime Minister?
No justice here.
That is Oxford. You can't do anything. Anyway, so social justice is still there because, Bobby was talking about, if people don't like the elite, they still can go protest. It's not like you don't have an outlet to challenge the government. But the question is, the extent to which this civil society can challenge them is always limited. It's always limited. Because of the weak institutional setting, it favors the elite. Right? So, but I would say that justice is there, but it's a long process, it's a very long journey to reach it. Right? And developmental state, yeah, in Malaysia, like this, when we have Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, so he doesn't like this, Western way of development. So in 1980s, he personally said that he will anti-Margaret Thatcher way of doing things. Right? But very weird, because in 1980s, when we start privatization, we copy Margaret Thatcher way. So anyway, so like that. So because of that, so he wants to say, so we come up with a look east policy. So this look east policy is to look at how Japan, Korea, and Taiwan actually grow the economy. So the developmental state is a mix of the Confucius way of developmental state in Northeast Asia, blended with the Malaysian way. Right? So they call it the semi-developmental state. It's not really that strong, but it's not really that weak. but it's for the survival of the community. Yes, ma'am.
Building on that, I was just wondering whether the theories of literature developed by Martin
Oh, okay, of course.
would work with it.
Yes, yes. It's institutionalist theory. In my PhD, I studied a lot of Hanun Khan. Yes, it works. Because they look from how politics is important to decide resources from an institutionalist perspective. So yes, it works very well, like 100%. Yes, sir. Okay.
Malaysia and see economic development. This seems to show us so many things wrong.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that the problem is that to achieve a high growth. Yes, I like I say, Malaysia has achieved like industrial development growth was really good in the 90s, but now we have a premature deindustrialization. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the government, the elite, I'm not saying that we should change government, but the elite, they can do something about it to shift to greater growth. But the question is that because too much prior investment, they are inflexible to change that because the result of weak institution. There's nothing wrong. The only problem is we have premature industrialization. US have a premature industrialization. UK has a premature industrialization, but at the wage of $5,000 US dollars.
So
We have premature industrialization. Let me make my point there.
So you're saying that Malaysia could have achieved high growth rate?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Can you tell a little bit more about the kind of methods that you might use, the data you might collect? This was just a question.
Okay.
But what's given the inherent difficulties of researching in these areas? I wonder what data will you use, or who will you speak to, or what data will you collect, or how will you do the new research?
All right. There's a very interesting function because this one I'm going to expect if I progress with you, which is next. So I can show you the people who I wish to interview. It's 35 of them, which is the political elite, number one, the politician, the bureaucrats, and politically linked company. I've already decided, the criteria of selection is number one, of course, the elite. So political elite including the opposition as well. So what they see, what is their view. Second is the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats that mentioned, the EPU especially, the Economic Planning Unit, and then there's another one, there are few agencies which is linked to Prime Minister's office. The question is always to get access. Thank God I have few friends who actually help me they are gatekeeper actually, to help me to get access to them.
So what kind of questions might you ask?
I cannot tell you that. Just joking. I will ask them how policy, how ideas is formed. How policy idea is formed. That's the question. Number two is that, this is some general question. How it is formed, how making idea get across in the policy making process. So these are the questions. And of course, the company which are linked to them, linked to political elite, there are 5 in fact, including not linked to the political elite, to see some contact. There are 2 successful industrial manufacturing company in Malaysia, which is not based on state patronage, that grow through in the global production. So the Ang technology and there's one Globe very, very successful company. And I'm sure you never heard of them.
I've heard of some.
Oh, sorry.
There's a quick follow-on question about the sort of on the kind of I guess you've got to anonymise all the data. But how do you manage the kind of question of you may uncover politically unpopular things?
Yeah.
And so how would you manage that?
Of course, I will get their consent so they can back this up. Ethical issue. I can get back to you.
No, I was just thinking about your personal safety.
Okay. I'm safe, nobody.
But by ethics, ethics also include personal safety.
I'll stop.
Last question. You mentioned about this middle income trap. How did that contributed to the stagnate in the manufacturing sector in Malaysia?
So the middle income trap is a phenomenon in Southeast Asia. So there are many ways of looking at it because of the stalling of industrial development. If you look from an angle of Kaltorian, which is pioneering, looking at how industrial can actually push up the economy. So if a country stops at the mid-kind production network, right, does not go to an innovative tier, so of course they cannot increase income, right? Because innovation is always how you generate more money and then more share. So this is the problem that causes middle income trap. Because industrial development, being the service industry, is so many things. There's so many things. In fact, if it doesn't grow, the rest will not grow. But it's just theory. You can use service sector to grow, like Singapore. Singapore grow because they come up with capital, they invest so much in service industry, so they become hub of a center in Southeast Asia, and then so that's why they can push the wage up, and because of innovation, including innovation, then that's why they somehow escape from the middle income. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We do have I have questions that I will talk to you. You question? No, don't ask. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this session. We really appreciate your question and of course, you lend me your ear during the entire presentation, and let's have fun.